fly here. All right. What up, everyone? Welcome back to Player Driven Live. It is February 5th. If you're new here, this is a show where we break down the business of gaming, player experience, and the forces that are shaping the industry in real time. We're not just talking about the headlines, we're talking about what actually matters behind it. And this week, the giants are moving. We've got big tech earnings. We've got generative AI rattling markets. We've got a console strategy at a crossroads. And we got one of the biggest media leadership changes we've seen in years. In about an hour, 4 companies managed to give us a pretty clean snapshot of where games and entertainment is heading. Microsoft dropped their earnings, and suddenly cloud and AI are back at the center of the conversation, not just for enterprises, but for gaming and for infrastructure, and how studios fund production and scale live services. Google showed off Genie 3. The market reaction was energetic. When engine companies and creator platforms move an AI announcement, it's not just hype. It's investors trying to price out what game creation might look like in the next few years. Nintendo is in that classic Nintendo spot, printing money on iconic IPs while everyone holds their breath waiting to see what the next hardware cycle looks like. The tension between legacy strength and future expectations is one of the most fascinating strategic plays in the industry. And then we have Disney, who's handing the CEO keys to a person running its parks again. It's not accidental. The company is saying that experience, ecosystem, or franchise matters more than any single distribution channel. So we're going to break this all down. I'm here with my always energetic guest who knows much more about this than I do. Colin, how are you, man?
I'm good. You might know more about Disney than I do. I don't know about that yet, but like, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Just another busy week. I spent a lot of time reading through Microsoft's earnings, asking a lot of questions about it, thinking a lot about the Genie reaction, both on the broad markets, which I thought was silly, and then the other stuff in the industry. So I'm excited to get into it because I think I have thoughts on all of this stuff.
I think you're always full of thoughts. That's the beautiful part of all this. And most importantly, next week, Colin and I will be at Dice. So if anyone's in Vegas and wants to check out this event that we're throwing, I've been talking to Colin through all of this from when I first had this inkling of an idea in Vegas, and I was really nervous that we were going to look like Michael Scott on The Office with no one in there. But now our RSVPs has hit 50, and now the idea is like, oh no, is this going to be big enough? At least the room. So, Colin, you pumped about this?
Yeah, I've never actually been to Dice myself. So I'm more excited to finally go to this industry event that I've actually. It's been cursed to me, so I'm like, I finally feel like there's no curses, knocking on lots of wood, that I'll actually be able to attend this year. So I'm excited to see what it's all about, from the Aria lobby slash coffee shop slash anything else in the area, right? But it seems like it's super well attended. And in terms of the event, yeah, it's super cool that a lot of people are interested in meeting up and touching grass and that sort of stuff. So I, you know more about the venue than I do. I'm just like, I'm gonna be there, man. I'll be there anyway. So excited to show up, have conversations, talk about all things in and around Dice, and kind of the nervousness that exists in the industry, because I feel like we're kind of still, and I think rightfully still seeing in this era of uncertainty that people are trying to get through. You see all the layoffs already starting to happen this year. It sucks. You see like people's concern that, is this going to get worse? What's going on here? And I think part of that shock that comes too is like when Microsoft announces that they miss the goal by like, they miss earnings by 9%. A lot of that coming from devices, but not all of it. A lot of it coming from software too, and games. So I think that's kind of probably rattled the industry a little bit. Like, what does this mean if what they're doing is not succeeding for them?
You're talking specifically on Microsoft and what?
Yeah, Microsoft. Yeah, I mean Nintendo. On the other hand, gangbuster earnings, good for them. Like, we can throw a parade for them, but we can save that to the end.
We'll save it for the end because I know that's your second favorite topic after this first one we're tackling, which is Microsoft. But give us your breakdown on it. Tell us what you think about their earnings
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
So I'm writing so I think this is becoming the hot spot, right? Just preview my passion notes, but I actually almost got done through the whole thing this week. I'm like looking at an almost complete version, so I'm quite happy with myself. But like, I think a lot of things stuck out to me. And so the first thing, when I saw this and I started thinking about it more deeply, and I'm thinking about AI more deeply, which I'll get to in a minute. I think the AI story very much is the Microsoft story, obviously, right? their earnings, their stock went down after earnings. And if you read kind of the analysts on the street, as it were, a lot of them will say they weren't able to generate the revenue they were expecting to, even though they generated a ton of profit. It wasn't quite the profit they're expecting to. Microsoft calls out one of the biggest concerns is their ability to access enough supply to meet demand. Like they're basically leaving demand on the table because they can't access enough supply to build out their chips and their data centers as fast as they need to, right? So this is like money being left on the table, basically. And so that was like the larger Microsoft earnings, but like diving into the gaming side, obviously they missed. And so my first reaction is, we knew it. Mind Game Data was right. Like we knew that the Call of Duty was going to miss. We knew Outer Worlds 2 was going to miss. We knew Ninja Gaiden 4 was going to miss. And if you have like your 3 games coming out in Q3, Q4 last year, they're all going to miss, then your earnings are going to miss, right? And we talked about it last episode, but like, Bobby Kotick somehow went out there and said they missed their Call of Duty goal by 60% over last year. Pretty much kind of in the same ballpark of what our number would suggest. So the Call of Duty thing is an open question, and the Game Pass is an open question, and what are they trying to do? But like, you know what? Let's not dwell on Game Pass. I think I've talked to you enough about that, Greg. I think you're as educated as you need to be on what I think about Game Pass. But let's just start with Microsoft. And like to me, the first thing is like, what is Xbox gaming? Like what was Xbox Game Studios? Like what is it actually? And if you look at our data, it's Minecraft. And this is like one of my just things that drives me crazy. Is for a company like Microsoft, who owns the largest game in the world, they never talk about it. It's like Voldemort of Microsoft. Like we just don't mention it. And you have to like really dig deep into just any sort of metrics that come out of it. Like at a Minecraft like annual thing, they announced that they announced a partnership. Like, so part of why this game is so big, and it makes up 7% of all gaming in our tool. Like it's easily the biggest game right there with Roblox. Like they kind of trade places, right? But um and then within the Microsoft portfolio, like Xbox Game Studios, like if you look at that, they own like 7.5% of the market. So 7%, so 90+% of the entire portfolio of Xbox, not including Activision, not including Blizzard, not including Bethesda's ZeniMax, but just the Xbox holdings, is Minecraft and everything else. So it's like that would include Outer Worlds, that would include Avowed, that would include Ninja Gaiden 4, that would include Forza. Like everything else makes up a minuscule amount of market share, and it's all just basically Minecraft. And yet they never talk about Minecraft. And you go back, and this is like where I think Microsoft has ended up from a gaming strategy. And this started like when they just at some point realized they couldn't make games, I guess, or like make games that people want to make in house. Like they at some point in the early 2010s, they kind of went into the let's just buy. And so I'm going to read a quote from Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, that he said in 2020. You can't wake up one day and say, let's build a game studio. The idea of having content is so we can reach larger communities. And they kind of go through these quotes every time they do an acquisition. And the first major acquisition was they bought Mojang Minecraft in like 2014. That was the first like mega big acquisition that they bought, right? And then that was the first in the long line of like they would buy the thing, they grow, they plateau, and then to grow more, they would buy another gaming company. So after they bought Mojang, they then would go buy Bethesda, ZeniMax, right? In like 2021, I think is when the deal closed. And then fast forward a few years after that, because growth went up in our tool, like the market share grew up a little bit, but it then plateaus. Then they go buy Activision Blizzard, and it goes up. And then if you look at the gaming earnings, which I'm sorry, I should probably just rattle off some of those numbers. I find it really fascinating. So give me a second and pause here. Um, I did this whole thing. I'm looking at my piece right now, so sorry for those. So they bought Mojang for 2.5 billion in 2014. They bought ZeniMax for 7.5 billion in 2020, and they bought Activision Blizzard King for 68.7 billion in 2022. Right, so the amount of money they're putting into buying new assets increasingly grows. Right, it gets more expensive to buy new things. So I want to just make sure I call that out in my numbers. Um, but in essence, like we can't find the revenues off TAM, and apologies. Yeah. So in pre Bethesda purchasing, their gaming revenues was capped at 11.6 billion, right? Post Bethesda acquisition, that number jumped to 15.4 billion, right? So they moved the needle up a little bit. Then when ABK kind of became a thing, they were around that number, like you know, after ABK arrived, they jumped up again to 21.5 billion of an annual in gaming revenue with 9 months, and then that when they have full calendar year underneath them, that number jumped up to 23.5 billion. So like every piece of growth of Microsoft gaming has occurred via just buying the thing, like just buying the next thing, buying the next thing. So they're on this like wheel of like constantly like acquiring new companies. But, and it's a big but, and this is my like my larger concern is like when you look at the overarching revenue of Microsoft holistically, it's literally like less than 10% of their revenue. They make so much more money from Azure, from Office 360 software, from literally every other business unit at a higher margin. And I think that is just the crux of the challenge that the gaming side of the business and the Microsoft has is that they are an opportunity cost that's not on the right side of the opportunity cost, where they continue to invest in the thing, they continue to see a little bit of growth, but and the number for any other gaming company would be massive in billions. Like, oh my gosh, we're growing revenue, we're becoming a bigger company, and yet for Microsoft, it's like a drop in the bucket. It's negligible to the earnings. And like when the street looks at their stock and it goes up and goes down, has nothing to do with gaming. Like missing gaming earnings doesn't matter. Missing the AI capex spending and being able to fulfill demand at the clip that the street wants you to, that's what kills their stock. That's what kills their stock, right? So that's the place I think they find themselves in, which is it's a bad place to be, honestly. If you're trying to be a gaming company, like how can you operate at 30% margin? So anyways, that's my table setting. I want your feedback, but I do want to shout out Chris String, right? And his like amazing, like I think or was it Chris String, or let me make sure I get it right. Oh no, it was Bloomberg who had the amazing piece where they actually interviewed the people from Obsidian, and they were pretty transparent about like their misses last year and the kind of pressure they're under with the margins. They didn't deny the 30% margin being an actual thing. It was an amazing piece. So if you haven't read that, go read that piece. It's a great story, great interview. Couldn't recommend it more. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you said so much there, right? It's how do you tackle it? And Justin's asking a question in chat, right? Asking about the Sony results, and I think we didn't really dig into those, right? But we could probably compare Microsoft to Sony, whereas again, Microsoft is just a bigger company, right? In reality, Microsoft could probably buy the Sony portion of gaming if they really wanted to, but that would kill a lot of things. But I think to your point, like Microsoft's realizing why are we playing this game? There's not enough margin in this game, at least right now, right? I mean, the truth is, when it comes to transmedia, at the end of the day, I know they talked about the Call of Duty show, right? Like maybe that changes things. Maybe all of a sudden you see profit coming in. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, and it's not connected, right? Sony had an amazing quarter, right? And they had, I think, can we relate any of that to distribution of things like K-pop Demon Hunters, right? Like they tore up with that. How much of it comes to the gaming side of the world? Their gaming is also now going to PC, right? And I think when I think about Microsoft, right, I think about, again, getting out of hardware, focusing purely on the software, the user interface, all that stuff. And how do you make Game Pass shine? Not as a well, I guess as a distribution network, but more so your community. You have a whole bunch of users and players that are gamers here, right? I think there's value in that. That's not just gamer money. It's, hey, I know all about Greg or Colin because he's a gamer and I know what his likes are. And I know he has an Office 365 subscription. I know he uses Copilot. I know he like it builds you the better profile of who this individual is. So it's almost like an investment in the long term. Hey, who are these users? Who are my users? How do I get in front of them and how do I get them to play this stuff? I truly think there's a bigger fight here, which is Windows versus Mac, right? And Mac for years has been winning. I think they've been stomping the wind. Like people want a Mac. If you talk to people, they want a MacBook. And I think Microsoft
Well,
needs
that's
to, their moneymaker is PC, and it's all that stuff on the computer that people are doing. Right? How do you get people to buy
I,
into Windows
I
ecosystem again?
yeah. Actually, you're giving me so shout out to his amazing video I watched that I stumbled upon in my social feeds because I guess the algorithm knows the kind of content I like to crush. And it was this guy named Brad Sams who I had not known. He's an analyst that covers Microsoft extensively. He has like a YouTube channel and does stuff, right? He had a great video on this, and like he was also calling out basically the same thing. And I think when I game theory out where I see gaming and my personal opinion, like you're going to see a lot of parallels to like how the entertainment companies are like basically judged on the cable assets they have, where they're like, why are you in this business? Get rid of these cable assets. Distraction, distraction, distraction. Even though they spit off profit, it's not the future, right? Because that's what the street always judges you on. It's like, what are you doing to hedge against the future? And I think like maybe the parallel is not quite the same, but I look at Microsoft too, and it's like, hey, are you going to go spend, if you spend $68 billion to buy Activision Blizzard King, and you need to buy something else to grow more, what else is on the market? Can you even buy it? And what is even the price point? So if you're going to spend 120 billion to buy the next thing, whatever that might be, look around. Like even if you can get that through the regulatory like hoopla, which would be a distraction for the leadership of Microsoft, like couldn't that 120 billion be spent on AI infrastructure, on just anything else that would do more for us in our corporate valuation versus just like continually chasing the gaming thing? But I think why they keep gaming around in part is because it's the only consumer brand they have. Like nobody, the Windows is not a consumer brand in the way that a Mac is. That's why Mac is so powerful. That's why the Apple brand is so powerful. It's a consumer brand. Consumers have a relationship with Mac. Nobody has a relationship with Windows or Office. It's a tool that's primarily enterprise, right? Um, so I think the one brand they do have that's consumer facing is the gaming part of their portfolio, right? That's a consumer brand, and that's probably what's keep the heat shield on it for as long as it's had. But like, it's not the end of the day. It's not going to be the CEO of Microsoft forever. So like, the kind of the future CEO of Microsoft, and people are playing that game right now. Could it be? I think her name is Amy Hood, right? Like a CFO. Like if she took over, would she, or any other financial, like more finance person, they would probably look at gaming and be like, got it, get out of this, right? Like this is negligible to our business. And just want to read you, like Microsoft made 81.3 billion in revenue in fiscal quarter last year for Q4. Just a staggering amount of money. And gaming makes 20 billion a year. Like a year.
Yeah.
It does, it's so just, and how many congressional hearings does Satya Nadella need to be pulled into to talk about like their gaming monopoly that doesn't exist, clearly? And just like, I just think that is the kind of inherent strain on this. And so not to get super doomery, but I do want to tie this back to AI a little bit. So all the Genie conversation about, AI, these loop videos, this is not gaming. You can't inherently invent a game, and like all that, I agree with. So I'll just like, maybe we could diverge a little bit, but like totally agree, right? I think the founder of Mind Game Data, Brian, had like the amazing post. He's like, you can't replicate game loops. You can't replicate all the things through AI. It's impossible. And for those who are basically championing for that to happen, you're basically rooting for the industry to be ripped apart, and replaced by things that actually can't do the job, which I'm like, yep, 100% great. I'm not a complete AI doomer though, where I'm not like, these are things that are awful. Like I look at it much like a hammer. I think I had my newsletter. I have the stat of farmers, like the percentage of a U.S. population that were farmers, kind of preceding each century. It went from like 90 to 40 to 2%. Like, and are we a collapsed society because we don't farm anymore? No, of course not. We've moved on to other things, and that's how I view AI. It's like, people like to think we're the horse in this horse and carriage analogy, like, or the horseless carriage. I like to think we're the rider of the carriage, not the actual horse. We're not going to be, put out the pasture and like left alone. Like I like to think we're the people driving the machine. So I'm a more optimist on that. So, and I use AI in every day of my life. I was at my son's baseball kickoff last week. We had to put together some equipment. All of us were like, I don't even know. I literally fired up ChatGPT, took a picture of the little logo on the piece of equipment. It prompted me, it took 30 seconds, got me the PDF file from the manufacturer website, opened it up, and I was like, oh, that's what I put together. Way better than search ever was. Like I wouldn't get with sponsored ads and sponsored blue clicks. I wouldn't have to dig on the internet to find the thing. I wouldn't have to watch a YouTube video. Just got me right to the answer, faster than anything else. That's an amazing real life use case of how I just use AI now as a knee jerk reaction to life challenges. Like I'm just gonna ask AI real quick what the solution is, and got to me really quickly. So that's not going anywhere. So it's a tool. But, and I want your POV, like, what AI is to the business, though, I think is a whole different thing. But like, how do you use AI? And then we'll dive into Microsoft. I'll pause here, Greg. Like, do you use AI? Are you an AI doomist?
I use AI Not all day, every day. When I started creating content in the beginning, I relied heavily on AI to help me with it. And the more I used it, I learned that it's not creating the content I truly want to come out of it. It's doing a really good job, and I still use it as a starting place, right? Even for my emails, right? I come up with an email. I'm trying to think, how do I send this proposal to someone? Let me type it into ChatGPT. I hate what it comes out. I don't hate what it comes up with, but it gives me that perfect template to start with. Recently, my wife's doing a variety show dance thing for the kids at our kindergarten school, and she's doing a dance to Ghostbusters, and I was just like, create a infographic to hand to the kids on how to do this dance, and they created in like 30 seconds, like an infographic with children as a cartoon on how to do this dance. It is a fantastic tool, and when Genie was shown off, I think Genie is so cool. Is it a game? No, right? It's a walking simulator that you could type in any prompt, but that's today. I mean, by next week, you can be doing more with it. And we can sit here and we could be doomers. I mean, one day these robots will become smart enough, so you might as well put thank you at the end of your prompt. But like,
I do. I
yeah,
always say
but
thank you,
like,
GP.
yeah, but like the truth is, like, we should not necessarily be scared. I think your analogy of the farmers, but there's another thing I want to talk about that was great, right? There's certain repetitive tasks we do on a day-to-day basis that actually don't need to be there, right? You can replace that repetitive task with an automation or something that's automatically done to make your life easier. And maybe today you're like, absolutely not, but in 5-10 years, or maybe 5-10 months at this point, it's going to be a completely different look at that. But you have to remember, back to your farming analogy, right? I agree with you, right? But there's a whole bunch of farmers in the Midwest that's their lifeblood, right? Like, they're like, this world is huge, and because it's not affecting us doesn't mean that there's people out there that it isn't affecting. And I'm all still for AI. I always will be. I think there always should be a human in the loop to help with this stuff. But like, the hammer's the analogy. Here's the hammer. We can either build with it or we can destroy with it. We can do what we want with it. It's really up to us to decide how to use it. But Genie 3 is a fantastic technology, and it's an amazing proof point. And the things that just Google is fascinating at this stuff, and it's going to be here no matter what, right? So the question is, do you use it or do you run and hide from it?
No, totally. And just like a shout out to now Chris String. His article is the one I was thinking about too. It's just like he interviewed the CEO of Take Two Interactive, and he had the quote: "Tools are not entertainment experiences. Creators use tools to create great entertainment." 100%. Yep, that's exactly right. And it's a tool, but there is downside to AI, and this kind of goes back to the Microsoft earnings. And to me, I feel this is where I'm like, I know I sound like a doomer, but this is where I really get pessimistic about just it all, because it almost looks like it's a lose-lose situation. So let's go down two paths. I think there's two paths. AI is indeed a bubble path, right? Where the whole thing collapses on itself. It's vaporware. All the anti-AI people dunk on the AI ecosystem and we win, right? Like they win the war. Like the rebels take down the empire, which is the AI, right? So that is path one. Path two is, well, no, actually, it's as crazy and transformative as the printing press. And we're going to go down that path, right? So path two. Let's talk path one as it relates to Microsoft. Okay, it is a bubble. 45, I believe, 45, I believe, percent of booked revenue from Microsoft that's not been realized is directly tied to OpenAI. Like, that is hundreds of billions of dollars that is in their books that is from OpenAI. If OpenAI collapses tomorrow, which if you're following what Sam Altman's doing on Twitter, it's a dark. It's not a 0% chance of that future happening. Let's just say that. I would say that if that does happen, Microsoft is going to have a real long window of pain they're going to go through, because they're going to be one of the biggest companies holding the bag. They're going to probably be the biggest company holding the bag, because they're going to have to wipe clean all that revenue that's quasi on their books but not confirmed, right? So that's going to huge implications on their company. And when they're strapped for cash, what they're going to do is going to find ways to make cash. And you can say it's going to be through cuts, or you can say it through spinoffs. But and the cut side of it would be just point blank. Like, I think Microsoft does a lot right now through Game Pass that I also say it's a bad business model because of windowing. That's why Microsoft people that listen to this, it's not that I hate the business model. I hate the windowing strategy behind it. Subscriptions have a place. You reach the most price sensitive consumer after you maximize revenue through all the people willing to pay that full price for it. That's my point. So get your full ticket item from the most first mover person, and then when you get to a subscription place, the syndication plus spot, then put it on syndication, pay and get your money from the most price sensitive consumer. That's windowing. Entertainment's been doing it forever. That's why theaters lead to DVDs, lead to streaming and cable, et cetera, et cetera. That's windowing 101, right? But they also subsidize a lot. So, and it's not just the indies. Like indie developers all know they get like checks from Microsoft to offset some of their dev costs. Okay, great. But it's also EA. It's also Riot. It's also Ubisoft. It's also like a bunch of gigantic organizations that get zero marginal cost dollars to just give them access to something that, Riot unlocks their heroes to people with Game Pass. That costs them nothing to do that. It's just access. So they're getting a check, I assume, from Microsoft of an undisclosed amount. If Microsoft is strained on cash, maybe they just stop the Game Pass experiment altogether. And then a lot of companies that are now years into expecting this revenue on their P&L are now left holding the this is gone tomorrow bag, right? Which I think would have catastrophic downstream impact on the industry, obviously. So that is one. Or they just spin off the whole thing. So that's path one. That's the dark side one. Dark side two. AI is actually the printing press. Okay, well, Microsoft can't meet demand now, and they are not able to change that outcome because there's this company out of Taiwan called TSMC, Taiwanese Semiconductor. They make all chips basically. All chips are basically through this one company in Taiwan, and they and their earnings call basically outline their plans to increase their own capex spend to meet demand, and it's not going to meet demand. Like a lot of analysts are basically saying, like they are underinvesting in this to basically stranglehold to be a purposeful bottleneck, probably for, and I don't want to get geopolitical, for probably national security reasons. Like we don't want to make too much because we want to be too important for the world to let fail. I think that's probably part of it. But two, they get pricing power. Like if you're the only chip manufacturer that can do these things, then you are inherently at the point of pricing power. You could start charging whatever you want. So prices of chips, memory chips, graphics chips are going to continue to go up. So Microsoft's capex spend is going to go up too. And again, that's just going to go up exponentially. And then the same outcome again. They're going to need money. They're going to look around. They're going to like, where do we keep cutting costs? This is why Amazon and Microsoft and Meta keep laying off just an insane amount of people, because they're trying to free up cash, because they need to put that cash into the chips, into the procuring of the hardware to build out the data centers for the AI future. And I think that is also a bad outcome. So when I think of like what keeps me up about AI, it's like actually both outcomes keep me up. And that's what's scary for, I think, for the gaming industry. And it's not in anyone's power to do anything about it other than just kind of ride the wave and hope for the best outcome. But I am, or I guess we kind of muddle middle it the whole time and we just kind of continue down the path of maybe, maybe not, right? But I just don't see that happening. I see two paths that are both scary.
You think you talk about both, but I think the realistic is that middle, right? Like the bubble will pop, and by bubble popping doesn't mean AI is going to go away. It means the hype around it is going to start to slow down, right? It's not like $100 million investment by Microsoft or whatever it is, right? Just I think that's the Nvidia one I saw recently. Like it's going to disappear. The giants are going to continue to be fine and win this game with AI because they're implementing it in logical ways that make sense. I mean, at the end of the day, having Copilot next to your Excel or Copilot next to your PowerPoint is actually a powerful tool, right? It's not going to, like, you find all these other companies that are building these fully AI-based image generation tools, vibe coding tools, which I love, right? Don't get me wrong, but like they're the ones that are going to be at risk when this bubble pops. Your Salesforces, your Microsofts, your Adobes, right? These monsters, it's like going to be a drip in the bucket for them because people will still use their tools. People will still go the direction. I think that's the reality. Is like the bubble will burst, but it's not going to affect the titans who are in the industry. ChatGPT is an interesting one because as you were talking, I was thinking like, what first mover in history lost the game, right? And first thing that comes back to my mind is like AIM. Back in the day, everyone had AIM. We were all talking on AIM, right? And they controlled the market. Who had anything else? Someone would be like, "Oh, here's an MSN Messenger."
Oh, can I name a couple other ones? Friendster,
ICQ.
MySpace. Friendster, MySpace didn't win out. It was Meta at Facebook. That came third down the line
Yeah.
of social media platforms. AIM is an interesting and good one for anyone. But AOL and Yahoo built like the internet based on like we will hold all content within our portal, but it was actually open web and Google organizing the open web that won out. So like they were the losers holding the bag on that. Both companies don't exist anymore. So that's an interesting one too, right? Those ones stick out of my mind on the technology side. Like it's not necessarily the first mover, it's the second or third mover. And man, I again, you like, well, Google's prospects look great because they have the infrastructure and the money to kind of keeping on. But like if OpenAI does indeed falter or collapse, like it's gonna be Microsoft holding that bag, man. They're the biggest investor in OpenAI. They have the most revenue on their books for the GPUs and the cloud space that OpenAI needs to continue to power on. And if OpenAI can't make their latest round of investment, which they're trying to raise money, but then you had Nvidia basically saying we're not actually giving them $100 billion anymore. Like, nah. And then he's like, please forgive me. I mean, again, follow Sam Altman on Twitter. It's a comedy show. I think he's really upset at Anthropic too for their Super Bowl commercial. Like, just the guy's not having a good week or two, right? Just kind of spinning out of control on the platform and barking on Elon Musk. Can't wait to get him a deposition. Like, I'm just like, wow, man, you're having a tough go at it. But the downside of that kind of having a bad outcome is Xbox or Microsoft holding the bag on that, because they're the most exposed out of anyone on that one. I mean, Oracle too. So maybe everyone who's rooting for Netflix to buy WB will happen just because Oracle is also in a tough bind if the OpenAI thing collapses. And they're also left holding the bag on debt. At least Microsoft's not debt. Oracle's on debt. So
Oracle's got that TikTok money now.
if you use the app, it's not as good, man. I'm just telling you, man.
I use it.
My kids, we watch TikTok every night. It's part of the routine. We watch certain creators on TikTok. I don't let the algo take us down a path of darkness. And as someone who's seen the dark algo just go on X, I can't quit that site, but I am just this close based on the amount of garbage you see on it.
I was telling my friend Tim, if he's listening, right, is that like he's been in a funk because he's on Facebook all the time, seeing things he doesn't like on Facebook. I'm like, that's Facebook, man. You can block certain people, you can do anything, but the algorithm on Facebook is just there to just get under your skin and make you the most angry person in the world. And you can go to Instagram. I love TikTok. I don't think TikTok, I'm not down the dark rabbit hole either, right? And I've seen a bit of a change, not enough to do anything, but like there's they're not as negative to these channels as it seems to be, unless you're on one of those negative channels and those dark thoughts go on. But like I open my TikTok, I get like cooking and gardening because those are my jams. And I'm like, all right, this is perfect. I can go down this rabbit hole.
Totally. For me, it's Lego creators. I didn't know there was a whole movement of putting epoxy on the floor and like making these like crazy art installations on the floor, like sort of in Australia. My kid like watching that. So just weird stuff. You're like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't even know this was a thing. But that's the kind of stuff I see on TikTok. But you're right. Meta is full of ads. I feel like every thing I see on the Instagram platform is an ad trying to get me to buy something. So they're just really, they got to pay for their AI somehow, and they're just loading up on ads. Just the amount of frequency on the ads is insane now. But
yeah.
Anyways, we're going off topic. Any other thoughts on the sadness of it all? We're just like gonna leave this depressed. Actually, shout out. You know what? I'm gonna throw some warm rainbows, some sunshine on Microsoft just to make Greg feel better at the end of this. Going into this year, yes, Minecraft is a juggernaut that doesn't quit, and I covered that. But you know what? They have two banger games looking like they're coming out this year that are going to be hits from Microsoft and Xbox. First off, Forza Horizon 6. It's going to be the number 2 game in the first half of this year. Are you excited, Greg? The biggest title out of Xbox publishing. It's going to be Forza.
Am I excited? No. I mean, I've played the Horizon games and I respect them. The driving games don't do it for me, but I get it, man. It's a beautiful looking game. I know people have been asking for Japan. They love the look and feel of it. And if they do it right, and it's funny that I did a TikTok video with us talking about Horizon. It got like 5,000 views. It was a good one. And just like people are like, we're pumped, but I'm worried about the environment density, about driving around and not seeing anything. And I think Playground Games is actually pretty good at building some engaging stuff within their games itself. It's again not my favorite type of game, but it's on Game Pass, so I will play it. Right, I can see if I can convince my group of friends to drive around because it is fun for that stuff. But
look, man, I think they're hitting the APAC market. Our tool shows like there's this hot heat coming out of APAC, and I think putting it in Japan, leaning into street culture and racing culture in Japan and like APAC broadly is, I mean, not Japan, it's all APAC, but like, again, you're putting it over there, I think is going to make this a very, very big launch. I just kind of look at our data. I'm like, oh, they got something here. A lot of interest, a lot of buzz, a lot of hype all around it. And what makes this different, other than just being the next gen Forza game, is like I think it's because it's in Japan. It's going to be a huge selling point for this game. So awesome that they're already cumulative mind share score 0.55. They are easily the second biggest game coming out the first half of this year, behind Resident Evil. So shout out to them. Next one up, God, Fable. I gotta say it, Fable. Fable. Our update happened. They're peaking out. They're right there with Tomb Raider, Legacy Atlantis in terms of games without a release date into the back half. So in our tool, it defaults to 12/31, right? So it's right there. It's same like level as Tomb Raider. People like Fable. The only risk to Fable, in my opinion, is that they actually try to put it against Grand Theft Auto. That would be just driving the car into a cliff, right? Off a cliff, whatever, into a building. I don't know.
Do you
You
think
just
Fable's audience is that different from the Outer Worlds? I know the
I
audience is bigger.
No, I actually think Fable is tapping into the Western RPG, which the point. I
Mhm.
mean, outside of Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3, what's the Western RPG right now? There really isn't one, right? So that's one. It's obviously not as difficult as Elden Ring and Elder Scrolls hasn't been one in forever, other if you count the Oblivion remaster. So I think it's into that like world to me. That's how I classify it. So it's reaching the more broad RPG community. So I think that, and I also think nostalgia. Like one of my big themes going in this year is like nostalgia, and I think Fable's nostalgia. Last Fable game hasn't come out for how long? Like 20 years? Like just
360
like
era, right?
yeah, like a lot of nostalgia on Fable, man. And you know, I am not sold on this game either way until I see Chicken Chaser. Like I straight up, they need Chicken
You like
Chaser.
that? You gotta put
Oh,
little
there you go.
comments on here now. It's the beauty of a new platform.
Oh my
Boom.
gosh. Well, yeah, I want to kick chickens. That's it. I just want to kick the chicken. If I can't kick the chicken, it's not my Fable.
Oh, you
Also, I
can.
need to become a devil at the end with the giant horns. I have to go just chaotic evil with every choice I make in that game, where they turn me into a giant devil. Like that's the other thing, and people are scared of me. But they call me Chicken Chaser out of respect because we gotta respect the Chicken Chaser. So that's the other thing. So they have a really good portfolio coming out this year. And not with anything else, but again, if Minecraft can't move the corporate needle for Microsoft, then what can? That's kind of maybe where I would end it.
Halo. But who
Minecraft's
knows what
great.
year that is?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um.
Yeah,
Well, they're
I'm
they're trying to do what they can to make the most money off this thing. Putting it on PlayStation day one is going to make these games big too. I think that's also part of it too. They're just tapping into a bigger market now with the PlayStation owners.
all
So,
right. Let's move on.
all right,
We've
let's
beaten that.
go.
Let's talk about your
Let's
favorite topic. It's not
Oh,
passing
you
on.
mean so you mean Nintendo? Just to kind of rattle off. So I remember late last year there was a lot of news stories and takes floating around that oh, the Switch 2 didn't got outsold in America by PlayStation. Woe is me, woe is me. What are they gonna do? So let me just rattle off some stats coming off the Nintendo earnings call. Net sales up 99% year over year. That sounds pretty good, right? Net profit up 51% year over year. Wow, that's not bad. Switch 2 hardware sales, 17 million units sold to date, with 7 million units alone during the holiday season. Wow, you know, sold a lot of hardware. I would say of that Switch 2. Switch software, 30 almost 38 million units sold so far, and 58.7% of Nintendo games sold in Q3 were physical still. So people are still buying that physical media from Nintendo. And then just to kind of wrap a bow on it, Mario Kart World, 14 million units sold thus far. My take seems true. In 3 years, Battlefield 6 will not be the number one game of 2025. It will be Mario Kart World, and it will be a trivia question asked at a bar. What was the top selling game of 2025? And everyone will say Battlefield 6. The right answer will be Mario Kart World. As it marches on to obscenely insane numbers in sales 20, 35 million, 40 million, 50 million. Yeah, it's just going to keep climbing as it keeps selling hardware. Donkey Kong, a respectable 4 million units sold. Pokemon ZA just on the Switch 2, almost 4 million units sold. Kirby Air Riders, almost 2 million units sold. So just Nintendo cooking, and we haven't gotten a 3D Mario yet. We haven't gotten a Zelda yet. We haven't gotten a Smash yet. The only A-list title they put on exclusive to the Switch 2 was Mario Kart.
And
So
Donkey Kong,
just
right? Or you're not
I
counting
would
AAA?
Donkey Kong is B tier. They're trying to make if Justin's there. Come on, you know this. They're trying to make him. They're trying to make him A tier. God bless Nintendo. You know he's got to have a movie first. Oh, and then by the way, the movie's coming out this year. Did you see the Yoshi trailer? Thing was fire. Just
Fire.
like fire. Yeah, little Yoshi. He's trapped in a cave. They let him out. Becomes Fred. Toad doesn't like him.
What's he, a
Sold.
Pokemon that he could talk and say his name? Has he always been able to do that?
Yeah, Yoshi just says Yoshi, man. We just gotta get the cinematic universe where we get the. So I don't know if there's a real Nintendo heads on this or listen to this, but the real Yoshi out. We get Yoshi so we can get to Boshi, which is evil Yoshi. He's a blue Yoshi. He wears sunglasses that are dark. He's in one game called Mario RPG, my favorite RPG of all time, and he's evil Yoshi, much like Waluigi is evil Luigi and Wario is evil Mario. Those three need to be in a movie together. We need to see Boshi, Waluigi, and Wario in a movie. Let's go. But we'll
I
wait till
love
the
that,
Yoshi
man.
movie.
You can make it a Luigi Mansion type of movie where it's just all dark, really dark movie, and have the bad guys show up. I truly think this is what takes down Avengers as top box office grossing
Oh,
film.
like a Nintendo
I think,
Smash movie.
yeah, I think if they build, I mean, first of all, if they're not building into this, like they're making a mistake, but they clearly are, all right. And I think you have this live action Roger Rabbitish type of movie with Link in there and Zelda stuff, and you like, I think you
I think they're
break,
seriously going for like a Lord of the Rings thing. I was like
yeah,
shooting in New
but
Zealand. It looks like Lord of the Rings.
we just watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit with our kids the other day. I don't know if you've watched that. First of all, don't watch it with your kids. It's an adult movie, not a kids movie.
Does it hold
Uh,
up?
what was that?
Does it hold up?
Oh yeah, it was great, man. It was fantastic. It was like I feel like the only movie ever that had both Looney Tunes and Disney in it, and it was really fascinating to see Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse
Mickey?
having a conversation. And it's just like kids loved it because it was fun. I mean, Jessica Rabbit is not kids friendly, but that type of movie I feel like is just so cool. I think if Nintendo will do that, and I think it will take down the Avengers top gross off. I mean, every person of every age has some sort of affinity to Nintendo, whether it be my dad, who I used to play Dr. Mario with on the NES, right? Or my kids who love every Nintendo game that comes out, right? Like it spans every generation, I think more so than comics. And I just think it's going to do something wild in the box office.
There you go. That's a good take. I like it. I just think like all they need to do to make Mario 2 movie make $1 billion was just put Yoshi in it. That's it. They didn't have to do anything else. Just put Yoshi in there. And that's $1 billion movie right there. Right. Um,
Speak- Um, Thanks, Tim. Yeah, there's Tim talking about Jessica Rabbit playing patty cake. I could tell you my kids, as well as his friends, are more excited about Bowser Jr. Is that it? Bowser Jr., right?
oh yeah,
Than,
Bowser
than
Jr.
Yoshi. I think, you got this, the bad side of things. And I think kids are excited about that.
My son loves Bowser Jr. He calls him
Yeah.
Baby Bowser. So shout out to Bowser Jr. He does. He's excited that he has the paintbrush and the kind of the mask on his face. The
Mhm.
whole yeah. Well, look, we'll know what the movie is, but I expect it to be gangbusters. But yeah, Nintendo doing the opposite. And you know what they're not into? AI CapEx spend. They're just cruising on,
My son
doing
loves that stuff.
they're they're an entertainment company at the end of the day, and they're making entertainment in their IP, right? So, and they happen to make hardware. And I guess the biggest risk to them and the Steam, I'm sure you saw the Steam Cube got pushed back to an undisclosed date, first half of this year, is like the cost of memory and the cost of chips is going to go up. So the pain's going to be felt across the rest of the consumer electronic ecosystem. It's not just everything runs on this stuff, everyone, like memory and like everything. Chips go up, everything is going to go up. It's going to be an inflationary thing.
I'm excited to see if the next generation of hardware gets delayed and what Nintendo did by releasing early will do for them. I think it was a amazing and well played timing for them, right? Who would have seen the chip shortage coming, inflation? I mean, I guess we kind of saw it coming, but like the fact that they were able to get something out there, and I think Sony and I think Microsoft just said they plan for 27 for their next release, and I don't think that's going to happen. But what do I know? But I think Nintendo
I
put
mean,
themselves in such a good spot to be ready, right? And people don't care about the console power anymore. I mean, you do when you're like our level, right? Like, hey, I love this idea of console power. But the truth is, to your point, like Nintendo banks off their IPs. they make games, and that's what the people want. They want to play games. Microsoft's, to your point, fighting for power, AI, who's using these technologies. Even Sony's getting into this live service kind of drag down. I don't know if you saw the new Horizons, right? They're going back for that kind of PvP type of play, but like Nintendo knows we're just gonna make games. They're never gonna be as rich as Microsoft. They're never gonna be as rich as Sony, but like they'll have their base, and their base will never move. Their base will put their kids in that base, and it will just continue to be a pure gaming company. Well, transmedia now.
Well, speaking, I want to dovetail the last thing, which is the Disney news. But I would say this: if Disney could rewind the clock 20 years, they would have bought Nintendo. If not assuming Nintendo was even for sale, because that's the IP that they're yearning for to kind of continue on the Disney march over the next, 20, 30 years is something like a Nintendo, which has that IP. But yeah, I mean, look, Nintendo's got quite the moat, man. Don't tell me that. I totally agree, and I see it with my kids, and I see it with me, and like, yeah, they got that generation. But hey, I'm the one that put those on the rundown, and I specifically want to talk about one thing I saw. So the Disney CEO changed, and I'll let you kind of kick it off. But the commentary from the entertainment industry via other podcasts, like this podcast called The Town from a guy named Matt Bellinelli, just drew me out the wall with how they talked about gaming. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, guys. Like, it's just like bang my head in the wall. But I want you to set it up for those who don't know about Disney's corporate hierarchy or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
Disney's always a fascinating one, right? So Bob Iger, their current CEO, announced his replacement, who's going to be Josh D'Amaro. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Tomorrow, yeah,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow, yeah,
And
tomorrow.
this is the second time Bob Iger is being replaced by the person that's in charge of the theme parks, which is a fascinating choice that they still go with that. And there's a lot of stories about Bob Iger and how he controls the company and runs the company and is proud of what he built. But it's also known to Disney that they need to move on and start thinking about that. So they announced Josh D'Amaro, and I watched part of his press conference, and it's funny because they got into the talk of generative content and putting their models out there, and he's very for it. It seems like, and it's a fascinating approach, which I want to pick your brain about. It's the same thing in Nintendo. Like, is this a good move or bad move to start letting content creators or just creators who are using things on the internet to start generating this content with Elsa and Moana and all your Disney characters that you want?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think, well, on top of overseeing the parks, I think you should call out he oversees gaming because that's where they shoved gaming in the Disney org. It's not under
Mhm.
anything else. It's under experiences, and gaming is considered an experience. So he actually is the one that oversees and manages the Epic Games Fortnite relationship. So when you say that to me, Amelia Head goes, I think he's probably talking about like, yeah, they have the test case with OpenAI. I think they just they'll take the equity. It's a short term deal. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Right at the end of the day, you're putting guardrails on things, quote unquote. Like, and also, I'm not naive. It's going to happen anyways. Just see what YouTube did. They just took content and hosted content that was clearly pirated until they got so big that no one could really stop it. Right. So at least you're not ignoring the future as it's happening in front of you would be my broader take. Although I don't like where that goes for content creators and rights holders, but I just also know like people gonna steal, man, and I don't see anyone stopping the theft, right? Either. I just see the same thing happening again that happened with YouTube. Same thing,
Yeah, it'll
right?
be interesting. I mean,
This
again, Disney went down this route before. They've replaced Bob Iger before, but I watched this whole documentary on it. How even when Bob Iger stepped down, like he played a big role on the board. And anytime the other Bob, I forgot his name, Bob Chopek,
Chapek, 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 yeah.
right? Every time he wanted to make a change, Bob Iger would make the board kind of push against that change. And will it be different this time? I'm sure things are set up differently because Disney's more aware of what might happen, but it,
Well, and they're more of a. I think a lot of the analysts I've read or heard about talk about this is they're actually more of an experienced company now than they were 5 or 10 years ago. Like it's the parks business that's holding the whole company. Like he's making hand over fist money in parks. They're investing a crazy amount of money into more cruises, more parks, more experiences because that's their main moat differentiator. They're because I live in LA, I get to experience a new Disneyland. I think it's called Forward something. I'm not a hardcore Disney guy, but I know they're like putting a lot of money into the park, maybe building a third park there. But like, awesome, because that's where people are. And like, I I always joke that like life is basically the experiences that we have in modern society could be basically boiled down to the Disneyland experience, which is like you're the standby person where you get in the park, you pay your ticket, and you have to wait and sacrifice a huge amount of your time to get on a single ride, right? So you might ride like 4 rides a day because each ride takes you about 50 minutes to get on, right? Because you're just in this queue just going through, right? Then the people that get on the ride faster at the same time are the people that have the lightning pass. That costs more money to on your ticket. It might be $60 per person per day per ticket, right? To get that extra bit. But what you get to do is you get to go on an app and set your time to go on the ride. You're like, yep, I'm going to go on the ride at 11 o'clock. So you just kind of mince around. 11 o'clock, you go in, you scan, you get on the ride right away. So you're not waiting in line. You're kind of waiting outside of the line, but you're still waiting, right? But you still get to cut ahead. You get to plan your day, and you probably get to ride more rides, right? So that's kind of the middle tier, and then the high tier, the kind of the 1%ers or less than the 5.05 is the I call them the Disney Sherpa. I think everyone calls them that, right? There's these plaid vesting people, cast members as they call them. They walk around with a little like tour guide thing. You're like, who are these people following this person? They're the Sherpas. They get you whatever you want. You're like, hey, I'm gonna go, and you pay an outrageous amount of money for like 3 hours of their time, right? You're like, I want to eat at this restaurant. I want to go see Walt Disney's like private apartment. I want to go on these 3 rides. You you get to do whatever you get to want to do. There's basically buying like a blank ticket to experience Disney however you want to, right? And that's like that one. I think like like how society sadly is now. It's like, yeah, you have your standbyers, your lightning pass, and your Sherpa. So I look at that new CEO and I say, hey man, can you fix the app? Like my one thing, can you fix the app? As a Disney customer on Disney Plus who goes to the parks once in a while, twice a year usually, to some sort of Disney experience, and who might be interested in reading ESPN for fantasy football reasons. Can you just make it one app? Like I, or one login, right? Like I don't want to have a Disney World app, a Disneyland app, a Disney Plus app, have a shopping account, and have and an ESPN account all kind of in their own thing. Like I just want it to be one thing. So if they can do anything, do that. But I will end on the gaming side, and I'll let you jump in, man. Gaming. The commentary was now if Disney spins off their cable assets with the new CEO, which is what everyone assumes they're going to do, sell off ESPN and everything else, they can use that money to finally get in gaming. They should buy Roblox or Fortnite. And I'm like, douche, I just want to bang my head in the wall. I mean, like, and I might write about this like next week or the week after. One, Disney isn't gaming, and they're pretty successful at licensing. It's expensive to take the Disney license for Star Wars or Marvel, but there are plenty of IP out there and games that exist that are using the licenses that Disney owns to make very successful games. So because they don't own game development doesn't mean they don't have a foothold in gaming. I think that's just like a misleading thing to say. They make money via licensing in gaming, and they offload all the risk to the developers and publishers. And if it doesn't work out, they just take their license back and give it to someone else. Simple as that, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's
while
a
we're at,
yeah. I was gonna say that's a tricky one, right? Because if you do you know how do you know how Subway operates the
yeah,
franchise?
franchises, yeah.
But the franchises aren't dictated by Subway Global or corporate. Meaning, if there's a $5 footlong sale going on and you're an owner of a Subway, you don't have to do that. And because of that, it makes a very broken corporate. I don't know what the word I want to use here, right? Because you might have this one-off franchise that doesn't want to follow the rules and they're allowed to. And I think it's a broken experience. And I think gaming is quite similar, where you're giving the keys to the kingdom to another studio. And if they screw it up, it's screwing up your IP. And yes, you can change. I mean, I go back to the early days of Sony or EA and Star Wars, right? Battlefront 2, you love it, you hate it. I think they did good by it by the end of the day. But you had a lot of loud voices that were coming in and complaining about it. And I think they risk licensing out that IP to tarnish it. But I get your point as well, where like why do we have to risk it, right? The IP will be fine. We'll just give it to someone else to take care of. Um, that's the thing that
Yeah,
comes to
like
mind when you're saying it.
Square Enix made an awful Avengers game. Sorry, Square Enix, but did not like it personally. They made a good Guardians game, but Disney basically pulled those licenses and gave them completely to Sony now, who's making the expanded Marvel Universe first player games with Wolverine coming out this year, right? So it's not like they don't do anything. They make very successful partnerships that kind of offload the risk of IP. But like, should they buy Roblox? I am the camp of no. Like, did you want any of them like noise around Roblox? Does Disney need that heat? No, I think that's a terrible idea to buy Roblox. Do they need to buy Fortnite? What are you getting with Fortnite? Would be the question. They already are in Fortnite with their license, with their deal with Epic, so you get to experience Disney characters inside Fortnite, right, regularly. what else would they be getting out of that? It seems like a headache to me, but I got a surprise twist because I came to a company they should buy. Greg, this is gonna tie a bow on everything. You ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
Disney should buy Blizzard.
Disney should buy Blizzard.
Yes, that's the one.
You
If it
think?
was for sale, if Microsoft needs the money and they were spinning off, that's my hot take. They should buy Blizzard. They have IP that is outside of Diablo, not super serious. Wow, I could see it working. They're in Anaheim, down the road, right across the street from Disneyland. They should buy Blizzard. That's the one.
I don't know. I gotta think that one through. I'm not ready to comment on that. That's a first of all, if anyone's buying Roblox, my money is on Mark Zuckerberg to open up his wallet and buy
I agree with that.
Roblox because I think that fits his metaverse vision that I don't think he's chasing anymore, but I think that fits it much more properly than
It's more
that.
ad inventory for him, and he can monetize it way better than Roblox can. Full
But
stop.
here's
So
something.
yeah,
Sorry, real quick on Roblox. Lewis wrote a great article about Roblox this week, so thank you, Lewis. But do you know in 2024, Roblox lost $935 million, and in 2025, the company seems to have racked up about $4 billion in losses. Is that wild to you?
it's a big number.
It's a huge number. I thought they were crushing the game, and maybe they're also crushing the game at MAU or daily active users, right? But they don't know how to
They
monetize it yet.
they don't know how to monetize. And to your point about Meta, I mean, if regulators allow it to happen, which they won't, not the EU, that's not happening. He's too much of a pariah now. But like that, he could definitely monetize the heck out of Roblox more than they can. In a manner that would respect the fact that the challenge with monetizing, as someone who worked in advertising with Roblox, is the fact they're all kids and you can't really advertise. There's a lot of legalness with kids. That's the challenge they have at Roblox is how do you advertise to kids in a primarily kid environment. There's not enough advertisers trying to reach people under the age of 18 to kind of warrant the expense that it takes to running Roblox. That's the nature of it. Advertisers want to reach people that are 18 to 34. That's the magic number. That's it. 18 to 34. That's what they want to reach because your identity is formed in those years. You're impressionistic on brands. You build these lifelong relationships with like Charmin toilet paper and etc. Like that's why that demo matters. And once you pass that demo, you've already calcified into I shop at Target. I do this, I do that. I already have my brands, and so you're harder to wrangle through or wrangle out. So they focus all their attention on that demo, and Roblox isn't that demo.
Real quick, we got a question in chat. Let's show it. Boom. Have you either of us played a game that was entirely made by AI? Did you enjoy it? How will AI in-game production influence the price point of a game? That's a whole topic we could discuss on another day. I could say never.
Yeah, I'll shoot out. Not to. I played Clay Obscure. Apparently it was made in part with AI. They got their trophy taken away from them. So there, I don't think. I think any game announcing their game was made by AI is like the dumbest move from a PR perspective you could do. Right? Don't do that. Right? I do think you're going to see a lot of games made are again like using the hammer analogy. A lot of tools are going to be a lot of AI is going to be used as background tools to make games better and pump them out more quickly. It might not be image generation. It might be as simple as the developers making the games email is more organized to actual tasks because they don't have to read it anymore because AI is doing it for them. And I would say that's in a space where AI is supporting the development of games because now they can spend more time making the game as opposed to doing stuff that's not directly tied to making a game. And I think that will definitely happen, but you won't see it on a label or anything. They'll just do it and they won't tell anyone, right? That's my take, 2 cents on AI and gaming. It'd be
I
used as
think
a tool.
it's inevitable. It's going to come. It will suck. It will probably be terrible at first, but certain things they'll get away with it at a certain point,
Can
right?
I can I blame AI for the third act of Claire Obscure? Like that, maybe that's my move, right? That's just like, yeah, it was a great game until I got to the third act, and they're like, here's the finish line right there. Like, is there a challenge? Is there a story? No, you just go back to where you came from. So I blame AI now for the third act of Claire Obscure.
There you go. Nice and easy. Create that scapegoat that you need. Before we wrap today, Colin, let us people know where we can find you.
Yeah, I'm Colin East. You find me on LinkedIn. I write patch notes that comes out on Fridays usually. So look for me on LinkedIn and on Substack under my name and patch notes. So I know Greg's Player Driven website has a link to me, so you can go there to find me. Just note that a lot of my readers are on LinkedIn because that's where I started this journey. So yeah, you can find me in those places though.
And next week, Colin and I don't know if we'll be doing this live session, but we will be live in person from somewhere in Vegas. We'll at least come back to say hello. My name is Greg. I'm at Player Driven. You can check out playerdriven.io. We'll have all this content Colin was talking about, and then some. Big thanks to Inverlist for all the conversation. Tim for dropping lots of conversation as well. Really appreciate it. Any final words, Colin?
No, man, excited. I hope people, if you want to actually read a more coherent thinking on my whole thing on Microsoft and everything else, I had my piece coming out on that tomorrow. So check it out if you want to spend a Saturday morning reading the whole thing.
All right. Well, enjoy finishing up your patch notes for the week, and we'll talk to you later.